I'd like to welcome you to another edition. And tonight we're going to talk about how to cope with family and work life together. Many of us face those challenges of trying to combine work and family life together. And, it's subject I don't know if we've talked a lot about, but I'm going to give you some strategies and ways that, and very practical points of view that will help you and that will give you what you guys need. And I think it's really important that, we are able to, keep this, moving forward for you guys because, with a lot of changes, happening with, family and work life lately about more people working virtually, more people, working from their homes and people going back to work. Even in my local area, I've seen traffic, get even more. And like I said, I am Andrea, the sensible lady. I help with the sensible and help you declutter the clutter in your life. And what I'm going to share with you about 12 different things tonight that I found that have been found to be very useful for families. And one of the first ones we'd like to talk about tonight is setting priorities. How many of us in our life just kind of float about life and not realize that, there are some things that are more important than each other? And the only thing I can have to say about that is, I set priorities all the time, which bills are going to get paid, what's going to happen. And a lot of times, when, things get, hectic, setting priorities allows one to be able to have a life. And when you realize that, when setting priorities, it allows one to realize, excuse me just a moment, I have to take a drink, that in setting family, priorities, that we realize that a lot of times that we can actually prevent emergencies and non-emergencies that could be emergencies, in doing so. But a lot of times, in emergencies and non-emergencies, sometimes we don't, set down plans or, ways that we can handle them, or certain things happen. And one of the key things I'd like to bring to you guys is that, if you do set some sort of pathway and some sort of way that you can handle things instead of, letting things, go to the last minute, so that if something does happen, you have something in plan. Like I have a alert, thing that I use around my neck, that if something happens to me, I've got somebody who takes care of my dog. I've got certain things in place now that make my life a whole lot easier. And I would hope that you would look at these things and say, hey, just setting down those simple things can make a huge adjustment. And a lot of times many times we, don't realize this. And then sometimes, when it comes to work, and we all have to work at some form or another, whether or not people believe it or not, is that, the sun is a little bit too much over here, so we'll try and put this a little more in the shade so for you guys to be able to see. And one of the key things is, in work life, that many times that, there are different ways that we can work. We can work from home. We can work flex hours. We can work things, within our families that, make life a lot easier and doable. And a lot of families get caught up that their kids have to put in daycare, and with the changes of our schooling system going more virtual, and the challenges of you as parents. I understand that you are faced with many challenges, and I'm hoping that, by giving you some of these things that I was able to put together for you tonight, that they would be of a big help. One of the other things is finding extra people that can help in your life and help in your family, whether it be neighbors, people from church, or, good folk that are in your community that could assist you with your kids or assist you with yourself, or any number of ways, that make your life and work situation better, so that if something does come up, that you can actually get something, done and have something in place, and that you won't feel so stressed. Because a lot of times when you try to combine work and family life together, you get really, really stressed out because you're not really sure, which way to turn, because the two don't seem to mesh. And for a lot of folks, that is true. And a lot of families get stressed out over that. And the one times I would like to, think about is that, one of the things that sometimes we do is that we overload ourselves with too many, after work things, too many after school things, too many things in life in general, and we don't learn to, limit what we do or focus. Yes, focus and clarity are two important things when it comes to having a work and family life together, because that when you put the two together, it makes for things to be a lot of things, and you don't get caught in, saying, well, I'm writing Anne, I'm writing her over the ballerina, I'm writing her over there, I'm writing myself over here. And the whole thing is that when you put some level of priorities to what you're going to do and you limit things, you start realizing what is most important in life, and that is really, really, really simple and, to the point. And another thing is that you've got to take time out. You got to take time out and, realize, what's most important. Fun time, time for love, for caring, a time away from things that are not necessarily work, or, with the keeping the family going all the time, but quality time. And, it depends on how you want to define quality time. But to me, quality time is time where you're actually caring and loving about what each other is doing in that moment and at that time period, and it's huge. And when you can able to do those kinds of things, then you realize that when those things are able to happen, then you realize that, another thing, one of these things that I don't know if you guys have ever thought about, but sharing your work experience and your life experience with your children. Because, when you do those things, kids really eyes bug out. And, when, kids really understand about what you do at work, and they get a lot more interested in what you have to say and what you do. And that, when the kids come home, they're probably going to be a lot more excited to see you, or even yourself, and realizing that you can share even with other folks who are of interest about what you do. And it opens you up to be less stressed and be able to integrate home and work life together, because the two don't have to be necessarily totally different, but sometimes you can combine the two. And sometimes that's the most optimal point I am also getting across, is that in combining the two and realizing that the two don't have to be separate. Yeah, one is to make a living, but one is also to have a life, and that is so important in this world. And it's, finding time for that joy and love in life and work and family. How can I say it is a huge thing that, one can do for oneself, your family, friends, and those and people you care about. Because life is too short for us to be so caught up in, like I was talking about, going down rabbit holes, just doing things to be doing things, and realizing, time is a very precious commodity for a lot of folks. And now that we're getting back in, quote, the real world, we are still adjusting to life after being in isolation, and there are still pockets of where that is going on, but that is a big adjustment for a lot of folks, and a readjustment for a lot of things about work and family life, and a lot of that has changed. Groups that I'm with, meet virtually or on Zoom or on Snapchat or TikTok or any of the other ones, that we all have to realize that no matter what, we are one big family, the human race, and that what needs are here are necessary different from the needs of any place else. People want families, people want to get along, people want to see that people, that their children can do better than what they were able to do. And maybe these seem too simple to you, but for me, I have had to define my own family, but at the same time, they set limits with me and I set limits with them, because in doing so, it's just a situation of mutual respect and dignity. And even within a family, you've got to have mutual respect and dignity if a family is to work. And you can't help but realize that if you have respect and dignity and love, kindness, and compassion for each other, that makes for a winning combination. I can't help but, realize that, how many families bicker because, one has somewhat of a differing opinion. I always like to ask myself a question: is it going to matter a second, a minute, an hour, a year, or years from now? And if the answer is no, I let it go. And if the answer is, and if it is going to matter, quickly or whatever, or quickly get over, the answer is yes. And yeah, it may seem like a simple solution to trying to decide and make choices, but I kind of bring it to you to, think about when you think about, what you're doing with your family and your work life. And because, you work for a certain number of years and then people retire, but a lot of folks ain't retiring nowadays because of financial situations, and other families are having to move in with each other or having to combine homes and incomes or even downsize. But when it comes to all this, yes, there is a lot of stress out there, and I will be the first to mention it, and that I'm not going to candy coat anything, because that definitely doesn't help us, and it's definitely not sensible. But the one key thing is that when you can keep it together and realize that, even when faced with depression, or people faced with disabilities, or even diseases or things that totally interrupt the whole family situation and work situation, if you guys have sat down, set priorities, and realized what's most important to you and your family and your work life, it makes for things to be so much simpler. And when you're able to do that, you realize that, it makes me really, it brings tears to my eyes when I hear folks, slaving at work and then going home and slaving, and hearing, and families not getting along because long work hours, this, and there's no sense of, one goes to one extreme or the other. And I've seen it far too often. Even in my life, I get far too extreme. And today I make up a list of things to do. I have, things I plan out. And there are things I have to admit I hate doing. And for me, my family is my church. And the one thing, and also my family is Anne, which I'm going to show to you. Yeah, she's right down here on the deck. She's right here on the deck. There she is. There's my Ann. There's my Ann. You didn't see her. There she is. There's my Ann. She's my darling little doggy. Yeah, I know sometimes it's hard for me to show that, but back to that. But she is my family, and she works with me in combination with what I do, and she is and helps me move forward every day with what I do in my work. So she is a part of my family. And yeah, she's a doggy, but she still has a lot of love to give, and I would hope that each of your families has lots of love to give, and lots of togetherness time too, because being together as a family, and that life also is more than just about work. I use the term work. Work. What brings you, the most pleasure in life? That's what I would like to truly define work as. What brings you the most joy in life, and that would bring you the most benefit. I would think to maybe stop and look at work that way if you could. And if you could, combine your work and family life together, because if you can combine that too, it just makes for so much better life. And these are all just suggestions to provide to you to hopefully, give your brain a jiggle. But, when it comes right down to it, for me, my ultimate family is my family with God, and He is my family, and He is my Father. But with all that said, we all have to, take care of each other in love and kindness and compassion. Yeah, I'll keep emphasizing this, and yes, we have to have hope, and every family has to have hope. And you also have to have hope in your work. And if you don't have a job right now, think of something that would bring you the most pleasure, something that would, what I mean by the most pleasure, something that would bring you the most enjoyment and the most meaning in life. And that can be a huge game changer on how you even view doing things. So with that all being said, I wish you a great Declares Delightful Life. Have hope, have peace, have tranquility and love, and take care of your family and your loved ones, because they are some of your most precious gifts you can ever have, and what God gives us. And have a great one.